Biology. When we think of biology, we often think of its positive applications. Medicine, research, education. We generally think of jobs that benefit society. However, has it ever crossed your mind that some people may abuse our knowledge of medicine and biology to harm others? Unfortunately, throughout history, many individuals, organizations, and even countries have resorted to using biological weapons for their own gain. As time goes on, weapons in warfare have become more deadly and advanced. Some of the most destructive weapons in history are biological weapons. A biological or germ weapon is defined as any disease-producing agent, such as bacteria, viruses, fungi, toxins, and other bacterial agents, that may be utilized as a weapon against humans, animals, or plants. Due to the difficulty of controlling the spread of disease, biological weapons have the power to wipe out thousands, including innocent people, without the enemy even being nearby. One of the first documented uses were when Scythian archers infected their arrows by dipping them in decomposing bodies, or in blood mixed with manure during the Trojan War. Herodotus, a Greek historian, documented that the Scythian archers placed mixtures of human blood and dung into concealed vessels and buried them until it was sufficiently decomposed. The poison produced was sure to contain bacteria Clostridium perfringens and Clostridium tetani, causing gangrene and tetanus. This venom is able to attack red blood cells, the central nervous system, and even induce respiratory paralysis. If a single Scythian arrow can cause that much harm, imagine the damage done by a Scythian archer who can launch about 20 arrows per minute and have a range of over 1,600 feet. Now fast forward about 2,000 years. The French and Indian Wars from 1754 to 1767 marked the first recorded biological weapon use in North America. The agent was a variola virus causing smallpox. British forces, under the direction of Sir Geoffrey Amherst, formulated a plan to reduce the native Indian population size. Using blankets contaminated with pus and dried scabs of smallpox spores from British troops, Amherst managed to spread the deadly disease amongst the tribes, contributing to an already existing smallpox epidemic, which killed approximately 90% of the Native American population. 90%. Now, that's a lot, considering the deficient knowledge regarding diseases and disease transmission. Only about a century later, in the late 1870s, did we discover the germ theory and how diseases are transmitted. Unfortunately, with the advancement of microbiology, in the late 19th century, it was finally possible to isolate, produce, and weaponize biological weapons. And by some misfortune, this discovery was made just in time for the two world wars, where many countries developed both biological and chemical weapons of mass destruction. Japan, being one of the major parties, engaged in research, development, testing, and production of biological weaponry, particularly in the use of anthrax, which is an infection caused by bacteria called Bacillus anthracis. This bacteria causes the infection of the lungs when inhaled, and anthrax spores then get transferred to the lymph nodes by the immune cells, and those spores multiply and release toxins in the body, ultimately resulting in death. Anthrax, along with a number of other infectious agents, had been experimented on and killed more than 3,000 human subjects, mostly prisoners of war, by the Japanese during this time frame. The horrors of the World Wars caused many countries to prohibit the use of biological weapons. The two treaties signed were the Geneva Protocol in 1925, which prohibited the use of poisoned weapons, and the Convention on the Prohibition of Biological Weapons in 1972. Today, all 193 state members of the United Nations, plus 3 other small islands, are members of the Biological Weapons Convention. The BWC bans the development, retention, and production of Unfortunately, even with a number of parties bound to this treaty, about a dozen nations are still suspected of having ongoing biological weapon programs. It is clear that the threats posed by biowarfare are severe. If the resources to develop such dangerous weapons land in the wrong hands, there's no guarantee that anybody is safe.
created using Powtoon.